In this lesson, we'll be classifying polynomials. So first, it's important to understand exactly what is a polynomial or a monomial. The prefix of mono means one, and nomial means number, so a monomial just means one number. So here, a number can consist of a coefficient, which is a number, a variable, and whatever exponent that variable has. The coefficient obviously is the value in the front, the a, and the degree of the monomial is whatever the exponent is, and if there's more than one exponent in one term, we would simply add those exponents. So here are a couple of easier examples. 5x squared, the coefficient would be 5, that's the number in front. Obviously the variable is x, and the degree is 2. For my second example, my coefficient is 1, since there is no value in front of the x to the 6th. And the degree is 6 because that is the exponent. If you have a monomial that contains more than one variable, we're simply going to add the variables. So add the degree of the variables. So 2a to the third, I have one variable, the degree is 3 because that is the only exponent that I have. I do want to point out at this point, before looking at the next example, that if I had 2 squared times a to the third, my degree would still be 3 because the exponents only pertain to variables. So 2 squared could be written as 4, in which case I would definitely not want to include that in the degree of the monomial. For my next example, notice this is one term, even though I have several variables. It's one term because there's no plus or minus in between. And so I would take 3 plus 5 to get 8. And for my last example, again, one term, so it is a monomial. I have an exponent of 3 and 1 and 2, so the degree is 6. A polynomial is simply many, poly meaning many, nomial meaning numbers, so many numbers, and they are separated by a plus or a minus. The sum or difference means there's a plus or a minus in between. So here a couple of different examples of polynomials. It doesn't matter if they have 2 terms or 3 terms or 4 terms, although we will talk about what those mean. If we write a polynomial in standard form, we write it with the terms in descending order according to degree. So in this example here, this is in standard form because the 5 is the greatest degree. This has a degree of 5. This has a degree of 3. This term has a degree of 2, and my constant has a degree of 0 because it's like x to the 0, which is of course 1. So that would be standard form because it's in order from highest to lowest degree. When I'm dealing with the degree of a polynomial, so we already talked about the degree of a monomial, the degree of a polynomial is simply looking at all of the different degrees of the monomials and choosing the largest one. So here I had a degree of 5, 3, 2, and 0. The highest degree is 5. This has a degree of 2, a degree of 1, and a degree of 1. The highest of those is 2, so the degree is 2. So notice the rules are different when there are minuses and pluses involved. A 2-term polynomial is called a binomial. If there are 3 terms, it's called a trinomial. In general, they're all called polynomials. So sometimes you'll hear me refer to them as a binomial or a polynomial. It's really all of the same thing. For our practice, we're going to practice writing a polynomial in standard form, and then we're going to give the degree and the leading coefficient. So let's go ahead and put it in standard form first, then we'll talk about what the other 2 things mean. In standard form, I would start with the highest degree. So it might be helpful to write the degrees of each. The degree of the first term is 1, of the second term is 2, because this is an exponent of 1 and exponent of 2. The degree of the third term is 3, and the degree of the fourth term is 0, because again, there's no variable. So to write it in standard form, I would simply write the highest degree first, then the next highest degree. Notice I kept the minus with the negative, or with the 5x squared. the positive 2x and the positive 3. So that's my polynomial in standard form. Then I'm going to give the degree, and the degree is the highest degree, so the degree equals 3. The leading coefficient is whatever number is in front of the highest degree. So once it's in standard form, it's whatever coefficient is on your first term. So the leading coefficient would be positive 6. My second example, I would start with the negative 3x squared, and then positive 2x, and then positive 5. So notice the negative stayed with my 3. This did not have a sign, so it was positive. This already had the plus in front of it. The degree is 2, and the leading coefficient would be negative 3. Go ahead and try these two on your own, then press play to see how you did. My first example, I would put my degree of 4 first, so negative 5x to the 4th. Then my degree of 3, so positive 4x to the 3rd. And my degree of 2, so plus 6x squared. The degree would be 4 from my highest degree. The leading coefficient would be negative 5. Negative 5. And my last example, the degree of 5 is definitely the highest degree. There is no degree of 4, but there is a degree of 3, negative 3x cubed, because again of my exponents. And then this one has a degree of 0, so plus 5, again because it was a positive 5. The degree of this would be 5, and the leading coefficient would be the value in front, so that would be 2.